Guys, welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at osmosis. Now the word osmosis is just a special type of diffusion. And we have an actual definition that you need to know about osmosis, and that is the movement of water particles. So we're just dealing with water, and the water moves from a dilute concentration to a more concentrated solution. Now the word dilute just means there's more water particles. There's quite a lot of them. Whereas if something's quite concentrated, it means that there's less water particles. So in a sense, osmosis is just the movement of water from where there's a lot to where there's not a lot. Now osmosis can only happen if there's a partially permeable membrane. And you would get away with saying a semi-permeable membrane. Now what's meant by a semi or partially permeable membrane? Well, here I'm going to draw an example of a partially permeable membrane, and you can see from my diagram that these blue particles represent the water molecules. Now they're small enough to fit through the membrane. The partially permeable membrane has very small gaps, so the water molecules can fit through them, whereas large molecules like this one, this could be glucose, it's too big to fit through, so it won't be able to get through the membrane. Let's look at an example. Here we've got a semi-permeable bag, and in that semi-permeable bag we have filled it with a high concentration of glucose, and this would be a solution. It's placed into some pure water or a dilute solution, somewhere where there's quite a lot of water particles. From our definition, you guys should know that the water will move from where there's a lot, from where it's dilute, to where it's concentrated. So all the water will be moving through the semi-permeable membrane and going into this tubing. If we was to leave this tubing in the beaker for a while, you'd come back and you'd see that the tubing has increased in size. It now has more water. And osmosis will happen until the concentration inside of the tubing is similar to the concentration outside of the bag. Now, why is this important for our cells? Well, osmosis can take place in our cells, and I'm going to draw a red blood cell. And red blood cells are very important as they carry the oxygen around our body. But osmosis can affect the shape of these red blood cells. If the concentration outside of these red blood cells is high, so there's not much water around these red blood cells, that's going to force all the water to move by osmosis out of the red blood cells and into the surrounding solution. That could cause these red blood cells to shrivel. Whereas if these same red blood cells were put into a dilute solution, or pure water, or a solution that contained a lot of water particles, well then the water would move the other way, and the water would move inside of the red blood cells, causing them to swell. Now eventually, these red blood cells could eventually burst if too much water moves inside, which again is dangerous for our cells. But osmosis is useful in plants, and it's a very important process in plants, because if you remember the structure of a plant cell, you'll remember that plants have this cell wall, and they also have a vacuole. Now, if the plant cell is placed into a dilute solution, i.e. there's a lot of water molecules around, well then the water's going to move into the vacuole by osmosis. This will cause the vacuole to swell and to press against the cell wall. This is what makes the plant cell hard and turgid, and it also keeps the stem upright. But if the plant cell was placed in a concentrated solution, i.e. the solution around the cell didn't contain much water, well then again osmosis would happen, but this time in the opposite direction. The water would move out of this cell, causing the plant cell to weaken. And you may see this when the stem starts to droop over. Okay guys, thanks for tuning in. Stay in touch for another video.